Arriving home from the education center, the young Delxian placed her fur-covered paw on the scanner and entered her residence. She made her way down the hallway of the small but not cramped apartment-style domicile her family lived in. She moved into the food preparation segment of the residence and saw her mother scrolling through the interface mounted on the counter. Her mother stopped and warmly greeted her. The two short but very bear-like forms embraced each other.
"How was the education center today, Jala?"
the mother asked. Placing her learning interface on the counter and sighing loudly in a huff, Jala answered,
"Well, you know the new species we have at the center? The human?"
"Yes, Lily, the ambassador's daughter. You said you've been making friends with her. Did something happen?"
her mother asked worriedly. Jala squirmed a moment.
"Well, sorta, but not really. I don't know. She said it was her birthday today, and she was kinda sad because she wasn't really able to celebrate like she normally does at home on Earth."
Her mother stared for a moment in confusion.
"What's a birthday, Jala? I don't understand."
Sitting in the wide high-back chair, Jala crossed her arms and laid her head on the counter.
"According to Lily, the humans have a party for the day they are born. Friends and everyone get together, and there's candy and presents and games and all sorts of fun stuff. It's like a whole special day just for them."
"Of course. We had a celebration at your arrival, but it was just our small family unit. There are far too many births during the bearing season. Everyone who is pregnant is busy with their own new offspring,"
her mother responded. Slouching her shoulders and grunting in frustration, Jala retorted,
"No, Mom. Like they celebrate it every year, and today was the equivalent day on Earth for Lily. Humans don't have a season when all the babies are born. They just happen all year."
Pausing to compose herself, the mother smoothed her simple dress and stood up. She took a deep breath and smiled.
"Now, Jala, I'm sure this new human is just trying to have some fun with you and making up stories. Why she would make up something like this is beyond me, but I will have a talk with Proctor Vex and see that this is sorted out. You are at the center to learn, not to be told wild tales about the breeding habits of new species."
Jala raised her head and leaned back, looking up at the ceiling. She slowly started to spin in the chair and let out a deep, exasperated sigh.
"I already asked Proctor Vex because it just seemed so weird. He looked it up on the interface and said it was true. He didn't know what a birthday was, but in the records for human breeding season, the entry said indeterminate continuous, which means she was telling the truth."
Jala's mother, watching her daughter slowly spin in the chair, was dumbfounded. She had never heard of such a thing. In all the species in the gathering of systems, everything had a cycle. It was what she was taught as absolute biology among all things. She would need to make a call to see just how truthful her daughter and this new friend were being. Jala was not one to lie, but perhaps the young mind could mishear or misunderstand things.
"Well, darling, if this girl is your friend, and this is something for their culture, maybe we can do something to make her feel special."
"Not every year, though.
She thought.
That's a bit much."
"Okay, apparently cake is a big deal for the celebration. We gotta figure out what cake is. Lily says it's amazing."
Jala said excitedly. The mother returned to her interface. She had work to do. Jala continued to ponder whatever delicious wonders cake held in store. All the while, she wiggled and kicked under the counter to keep the perpetual motion of her chair in rotation, distracting her mother from her research. The mother reached out to Proctor Vex in a small chat window to assess the validity of her daughter's claims. While she waited for a response, she found precious little about humans on her interface. The education center had a much wider reach for access to information, especially about new species, so she wasn't surprised when humans were only mentioned in brief sightings. Tall tales of exploits in battles, which had no way of being accurate, limited accounts of apex predators as pets, and the preposterous list continued. This was obviously the work of interface trolls and storytellers making up accounts to gain popularity. She'd just have to wait for Proctor Vex. And there it was. He had responded, "The girls are accurate." That was the message. That's it, no elaboration or explanation, simply affirmation that their claims were correct. She responded back, requesting a meeting with the proctor. If this Lily was going to be her daughter's friend, she better know what she was getting into. The following morning, Jala's mother waited in the proctor's office. The tall keratin arrived shortly after the morning assembly with the staff and students. He greeted her.
Seen and well met, Auryxia.
His raspy voice said with a nod of his large, green, bulbous head. It was a formal greeting, but this was a place of learning and a scheduled meeting. She nodded back slightly lower to show her respect. He outstretched his thin, gangly arm and gestured for her to sit, clasping the chair with his 3 fingers and pulling the seat out for Auryxia.
It seems Jala has made a new friend, and it's been a bit of a learning curve for all of us. It's very exciting. What can I help you with?
Yes, it is very exciting. Jala has had nothing but praise for Lily, even if she is a little strange. But that can be said about all new species, I guess. What can you tell me about the humans? Everything I have found seems to be rather outlandish, and I'd rather not be caught unaware the next time Jala comes home with questions.
Proctor Vex blinked, his grouping of eyes all closing in unison.
Well, it all seems to be true. Yes, all of it. Humans are a strange species, and everything I can find tells me to be glad they are on our side.
He paused.
Not to say Lily is dangerous in any way. She is but a child of 14 Earth years old, the equivalent of Jala in many cases. They are just very different from the rest of the galaxy. But we'll adjust and make Lily feel welcome, with Jala's help, hopefully.
Auryxia pondered for a moment. She thought of the wild tales she had seen in her interface the day before and was slightly hesitant. Lily had done nothing wrong and, by all accounts, had been a good friend to Jala in the few short weeks they had known each other.
Yes, Jala would love to help, and I will do what I can. Tell me about this birthday that had Lily out of sorts.
Vex cleared his throat as he often did.
I communicated with the human ambassador last night, and she stated that they did have a small celebration at their residence last night. But Lily was homesick and missed the larger event she has grown accustomed to. The ambassador did what she could, but things out here are different, and Lily will need to make some adjustments.
Jala's mother, without hesitation, looked at the proctor and said,
Leave it to me and Jala. We'll handle it.
And with that she stood up, turned and left the office, leaving Proctor Vex with his mouth agape.
Handle what?
The confused voice of Vex echoed out of his office as Auryxia hurried down the hall. She had work to do. The next few days were a blur of sly questions about the nature and procedure of birthday celebrations, mixed with coordination and a few communications with the human ambassador. Jala didn't have much information, but sweets, games, and friends seemed to be at the top of the list from what she could gather. Presents were also a big part. But what do you get a human teenage girl? Auryxia had no idea. She'd have to make do. At the end of the formal week, everything had been arranged. Even the stuffy Proctor Vex seemed to be enjoying the excitement of the new experience and allowed a small function to be held in one of the smaller meeting rooms. Jala and Lily were called to the main office while the final details were put into place. Confused and patiently waiting, the girls were led to the portal of the small room. Auryxia motioned for them to press the sensor and open the door. The whir of the electric motor clicked on, and the door split at the seam in the middle, revealing a dazzling display of colors and sounds.
Happy birthday!
Exclaimed the crowd of classmates and instructors within the enclosed space. Lily's eyes brightened, a huge smile on her face. She turned to hug Jala and whispered in her ear,
Thank you.
Lily held on for a moment longer and squeezed. It almost hurt Jala. She hadn't realized how strong Lily was. They entered the room and were amazed by the floating orbs of shifting colors and the floating tables laid out with treats and sweet delights. A pink box sat proudly in the center. Jala had never seen a box quite like that before. Upon inspection, it held a square food item of some sort, spongy in texture and covered in a paste with the words, Happy Birthday, Lily, across it. Lily, holding the ambassador's hand, walked up to Jala.
That's the cake.
She beamed.
And this is my mom.
Jala nodded and greeted the ambassador, eyes fully fixed on the cake. A knowing glance between Jala and Lily, Lily looked up at her mother, and she nodded. The two girls grabbed plates and cut themselves rather large pieces of cake. Lily was explaining how you're supposed to wait for the cake to be lit on fire and then spit on it to put it out while everyone sings. But Jala wasn't paying attention. Jala reached for the unwieldy piece of cake on her plate, but Lily stopped her and handed her a small utensil with several tines on it. The fork, as it was called, required a level of dexterity that Jala couldn't muster with her paws. Seeing this, Lily set her fork aside, lifted the plate to her face and ate the cake straight off the plate. Jala did the same. The cake hit Jala's tongue and she was entranced. With a mouthful of confectioners, she mumbled,
Must have felt great.
The girls nodded to each other and finished way too much cake together. They shared it with the class and instructors, who all agreed on the necessity for cake to be spread throughout the gathering. The ambassador looked at Lily and saw her laughing with her friends, just being a normal kid amidst the vast array of species at this side of the galaxy's first birthday party. She looked over at Orixia, and they shared a smile. From one mother to another across species, they shared a moment. The ambassador mouthed,
Thank you.